Hi, my name is Tony Vion, and I'm part of the prayer leadership team here at Central, serving alongside of Paul. And I would like to also give you my word of welcome for attending the Threshold Intensive. I know you'll get tons out of this and be able to hopefully go back and at some point set up a prayer ministry in wherever you are serving or whatever capacity you have. So again, welcome. Paul has asked me to specifically talk about my role as a member of the prayer leadership team, and more specifically my role as working with the prayer partners. So I was looking back through the records that I could find, and it looks like back somewhere in 2007 is when I first started being a prayer partner. And I did that because I came to a school of prayer that Central holds, and through that school of prayer, at the end of it, we were all given a sheet and asked, is there an area here that you think you could serve in? And I really felt the Holy Spirit prompting me at that point, and when I looked down, I had been a number of years prior to that, I had been an elder in the church, and I had come to a point where I felt more comfortable praying out loud, and there was a place for prayer partners. So I said, maybe that's where I'm being prompted. So I went ahead and wrote down I'd be willing to serve as a prayer partner. Not long after that, they contacted me, took me through some training, and bingo, I was a prayer partner, and started going down front after services and praying with folks that came down. A couple years after that, after serving, they came to me and asked me if I would help coordinate and schedule their prayer partners. So I said yes and started doing that. Well, as Central grew, at one point in time, I was then scheduling prayer partners for 3 different campuses. Once we grew beyond that, then they saw the need to go ahead and break that up, and now they have somebody coordinating the prayer partners at each particular campus, and now I only have to do the Mesa campus. So that makes my job just a little easier than it once was. So I kind of came up through basically attending the school of prayer, serving, and then being asked to go on and serve in this capacity. And so that's what I do. And I think that's an important take because most of our prayer partners and those that we get to serve are done through a number of ways. One of them was like me, through School of Prayer. So whenever this prayer ministry has an event, we typically reach out to the people that are there attending the event who seem to get what prayer is about and ask them, hey, would you be willing to serve in these capacities that we have open? We also find that, interestingly enough, some of our prayer partners are people who have at one point come down, asked for prayers themselves, and saw how that worked in their lives and stepped forward and said, you know what, I would like to be a prayer partner as well. So we find one of the best ways is just word of mouth, getting it out there, having our own prayer partners talk to people, having us talk to people at events, working with people who come down for prayer. All of those different things tend to work. Other things that we have tried as far as putting out announcements and things just really don't seem to work as well as that one-on-one invitation. And so that's what we tend to find. So let's say we have somebody who has expressed interest through one of those venues and said, okay, now I would like to be a prayer partner. So typically, if it's going to be on the Mesa campus, they would get a hold of me, and I would meet with them. And I have a sheet that I utilize, and it has 23 items on it that I sit down and go through with the prospective prayer partner. These items are really meant to try to prepare them along the way. And I won't go through the whole thing because it takes me an hour just to go through that. But besides the background checking and things that Central does, and maybe Paul can talk to you about that if he hasn't already, my job is specifically just to prepare them to be a prayer partner and what that's all about. So, I just start out with them, talking to them about when they're going to be a prayer partner that morning when they get up, and throughout their morning to just be praying, to ready their heart to be ready for that day and that morning when they're going to be up front. I ask them to do the same thing when they're in the service, to be praying for those in the service who the Holy Spirit is going to touch their heart, and to give them the courage to come down front, and then to prepare us to be ready to receive them and to be able to lift their prayers up So that's, I think, an important thing. One of the other important foundational things that we talk to them about is confidentiality. It's extremely important that when people come down, that they know whatever they share with us is going to stay with us and not be shared. This is one of the things that Paul impressed upon me right from the beginning, that one of the things that can kill a prayer ministry, and specifically our prayer partners, quicker, is for us to listen to somebody's prayer, to pray with them, and to be walking out of church with our spouse, let's say, and be talking to them about what the person told us and have them overhear it, and for them to think, wow, what I told them in confidence is now being spread. So we take that very, very seriously. And when I teach and train, I do the same thing. I make that a very serious part of what I teach the prayer partners. We talk about dress. We talk about making it easy for them to be accessible after the service to go down front. We ask them if at all possible to be in the service ahead of time, because oftentimes whatever is preached about during the service is something that will trigger them to come down front, trigger something they need prayer for. I've truly had people just walk in front of me and burst out crying and said, what Cal just said in that sermon is exactly me. And it truly helps if you know what the sermon was about. Asking them to look approachable, to greet the people. When Paul first started here, prior to him, when someone would come down for prayer, they would take them through these drapes and into this room, and it was like all the secret. And when Paul got here, he said, no, we want our congregation to see us praying with people. So now our prayer partners stand up front. When people come down front, we either stand there and pray with them, or if need be, we go sit in the pews right there near that and be able to pray with them that way. Sometimes people are really emotional, or sometimes we have elderly people that just need to sit down. So we train the prayer partners to be able to work with each. We have a card for them to utilize to write down the person's name, write down what their prayer request is. Sometimes if they have a bad memory like me, it's real helpful to write down their name, because if, after a few minutes of talking and telling them what their needs are, then all of a sudden I have forgotten their name, or they may have multiple needs. So we have a card for that, and that same card could be used then for us to be able to put their prayer need on our prayer web and have people praying for it all around the clock. So I think that's critical as well. We also talk about what to do if we have a situation where somebody needs something beyond prayer. If they need a pastor, if they have something intense going on that's kind of beyond us just being able to pray for, what we do with those people. And typically we will try to get them to a pastor, get them down to what we call our starting point, where there's typically somebody there. But it's critical for us to have somebody that our prayer partners can take people to if they feel like it's a little over their head. That way they don't feel so nervous about how to deal with those situations. So we try to prepare them for that, even as far as giving them cell phone numbers for Paul or for Kathy or myself in case they run into a situation. We also try to prepare them a little bit in case it could be a situation where somebody's depressed, they're considering maybe suicidal thoughts, and we try to talk through that a little bit and make sure that that's not something they're actively pursuing. And typically it's not. Just looking here real quickly. So we just take them through all the logistics of coming forward, of praying, of filling out the card. We ask them not, even if they feel a connection with the person, not to give that person their personal contact. We also, even if it's a stressful situation, somebody's broke or whatever that happens to be, we ask them to, try to hold off trying to actually feeling like they need to give them cash. We have resources at the church that we can direct them to. So it takes about an hour. Oh, and at the very end, I talk about, as Paul has down on his sheet, that it's not a bad idea to have some breath mints. I mean, we're working very close with people face to face, and I think that's important. When I train my prayer partners, I pretty much go through that, leave them that, they take notes on that, and they feel pretty prepared after that. I also encourage them their first time or two to pair up with another prayer partner. Typically, we have, if at all possible, we ask men to pray with men and women to pray with women when they come forward. It's not always 100% able to do it that way because we don't have enough of each. But then when we're training them, then I'll ask a woman to go stand next to another woman who's praying and do that once or twice to feel a little more comfortable, and man with man, same kind of thing. So that's another important part of our prayer partner training, is to try to work on those ideas. As far as the logistics of scheduling them, I do that on a quarterly basis. I ask for the prayer partners to commit to at least 1 month out of a quarter to pray after one service, two service, wherever they're led. I have some people that do that. They serve once a quarter. I have some people that will serve all 3 months out of the quarter. So that part is kind of nice, makes it a little easier for me. I know that some of the other campuses schedule them a little bit differently than that, than they actually get down to the week by week. But I find that rather difficult, and so I like to get that commitment right up front. So I do that. I think that's... we have lanyards, so I encourage them to wear their lanyard. Even with wearing a lanyard, standing right up front, people will still come forward and say, hey, are you one of those prayer people? Because they don't remember the name prayer partner. And so, yeah, that helps identify us as being prayer partners and somebody that they can work with. So our prayer partners seem to enjoy it. I've had some that have been here a very, very long time. So that's mainly what I do, coordinating with the prayer partners. I also work on Paul's prayer support team or feedback team, whatever he calls it, just to have other people that we meet a couple of times a year, just to sit down and say, how's the prayer ministry doing? Brainstorm some ideas, where can we go forward, what things are working, what things aren't working. And so I think it helps Paul to have a group of us who are very involved in the prayer ministry to be able to serve in that way. I've even had the opportunity to go with Paul and travel a couple of times, to go to other churches, to be able to serve alongside of him. I often tell the story, and I'll tell it real quickly, about traveling with Paul to Terre Haute, Indiana. Paul, if I'm wrong, correct me on that, because I've been wrong before, where Paul was teaching, and on a Sunday morning he was going to be preaching at 2 different services. I told him, you know what, I love you, Paul, I'd love to listen to you, but I think 2 services is a bit much. So he challenged me that during the second service to show them how to do an intercessory prayer session. And so I kind of bit the bullet and said, okay. And so during, preparing for that, I looked around. I actually got lucky and found a book that they prepare weekly that shows the needs of the church. And so a rather good-sized group volunteered to come in with me. And so I led them through about an hour of intercessory prayer using the needs of the church, and it was just an amazing experience. And I was so glad that Paul pushed me, and he has continued to push me to grow in the area of prayer. So, that's another blessing about stepping up and being willing to serve. Is when I first got involved in the prayer ministry, I thought, prayer ministry, why do you need a prayer pastor? What's involved? And I've just learned so much and grown so much now, to the point where I'm discipling people through our Call to Obedience discipling program that we're using, and just learning all the time that more and more about prayer and how to pray at a deeper level. So I hope this has been helpful. Hopefully I didn't talk too long. But I just want to encourage you guys to listen intently to what Paul has to say. He's an amazing prayer leader. I know I've grown amazingly under his tutelage, and I know you will as well. So have a great rest of your Threshold Intensive. I know I'm the only thing probably holding you up from lunch, so enjoy, and I hope to maybe one of these days see any of you personally. So have a great rest of your day.